Hey everybody, this is Lori Schulweis.
And I'm Jenn Giamo.
And welcome to another episode of Everybody Talks, the podcast where we like to explore the wide world of wellness.
Yep, every week we'll answer a different question, from nutrition and exercise to mindfulness and self-care and any other trendy buzzword that crosses our path.
Sometimes we're lucky enough to have some of our favorite experts on, sometimes we just talk to each other, but we're always talking to you. So let's get started. Who do we have, Jen?
Today, I'm so excited. Okay, she is, and I'm going to have to clarify some of these terms, but she is an unschooling mother, intuition coach, certified brain trainer, and the founder of Kind Brain, Body, and Brain Spa. She's had a soul-nourishing career as a director of various youth programs across the country and a family coach for teens and parents for over 20 years. She knows the challenges of new momness, feeling scattered, and healing from traumatic events so she can thrive in her own life. What she has discovered since the inception of Kind Brain is that when people sustainably regulate their nervous system, their world profoundly changes.
She is clear that her mission is to transform how we all view and heal from trauma and grief. She is also clear that we all can heal once we make a choice to. Please welcome our friend, Kelley Raleigh.
Welcome.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
Even Oliver is excited.
Oliver's excited too. We've got,
I love dogs. Hi, Lori and Jen. It's so good to see you guys.
It's so good to see you.
Thank you so much.
You were kind enough to no pun intended. You came on an Instagram Live with us not too long ago when we were thinking about doing a podcast, and now, so thank you for coming back.
Yes.
And
she came on our wellness call.
I know. I
like talking with you guys. Like, it's fun. I feel like we all have great information. We all have great energy. Let's just talk about fun things.
Kelley, what else? Is there anything that we missed? What else do you want to share about yourself for our listeners?
I mean, that kind of hits it all. You had asked about unschooling, and yes. I will kind of explain that a little bit and how it parlays into what I do. So when my son was little, my late husband and I decided, we don't really want to do traditional schooling. We thought we would homeschool. And, everybody kind of knows what homeschool. You think that you're doing all of your workbooks and all of your things at a desk in your house. And that's one version of it. And then when my son was 2, we were doing all these forest schools and exploration pieces, because I just I'm in Los Angeles. I'm going to be out in nature because I can, 12 months out of the year. And so he's, running through creeks, and he's climbing trees, and he's going to the beach, and he's 2 and he's doing it. And I'm like, he's thriving in this. Why would I want to take him from this environment to sit down and learn something in another way when he's learning? We started baking, we started, we travel the world. This kid, loves to soak up the information and, learn things. And so it became really clear with my late husband and I that, we want to continue doing this. And so we, somehow I found, about 10 families that all wanted to do the same. And so we've just been doing a version of that for years.
That's really cool. Yeah. And so it's funny because I asked her, I was like, is this a misprint? I'm like, unschooling? Did you mean homeschooling? So the difference then is with homeschooling, you would have a curriculum or something to follow subjects, right. Whereas what you're doing is called unschooling because it is kind of pulling that apart and breaking it down. Yeah. And how old is he now?
He's 7 now.
Wow.
And since I now have to work and my husband has died and he was the sole provider and I was a stay-at-home mom, I now am working. So I do a drop-off co-op where it's we've hired a teacher who I am very clear on what they're going to be talking about or not talking about. I want it to be more conservative values. And it's still child-led.
But I think that experiential way of learning, especially and I'm going to use today's day and age, I hate that phrase, but I feel so old, but old. It removing them from the technology and letting them have the experience of interacting with people, whether it's other kids or adults. And it's they really learn so much and build confidence in that way. So I think that's very cool. And I learned what unschooling is now.
You did.
Look at that.
But let's dial it back to why Kelley is really here to talk about.
Yep.
And you mentioned your late husband. And so I think that you had this traumatic thing happen to you and that kind of set you down on a road where you are today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how that all started?
Yeah. So I feel like many people are not connected to their intuition. I have moments where I'm like, am I even, but for the most part, I feel like I am. And so 2.5 years ago, my son and I, we were on a whole day excursion in Orange County with our friends. And we came home to my husband dead in the backyard, and his heart just stopped. And, it was literally in an instant, everything just turned. And I had been doing my business part-time at that point. So I'd been doing NeurOptimal on myself, brain training, and I've been doing it on my son, and, really kind of working within the parameters of like using tools on Zane, like how to forgive himself and like how to maybe chant a tone and, just kind of like breathing exercises. So like we were doing that a bit. But with my husband dying, it was like, well, everything's changing right now. And I've got to like choose to like keep going, and not only keep going, but to like literally love my life still, because I had a great life. So, things were really good. And I mean, we had our things. I mean, marriage after 16
Everybody
years
does.
is a thing.
Sure. Everybody does.
Yep.
For anybody that's married or long-term relationships, you know this.
Yeah.
But, we were really great co-parents, and we loved being parents, both of us, so much. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to continue thriving. I'm going to continue creating an epic life. It's just me doing it. And I have to say it's very daunting at times, being a solo parent and having to financially provide and do all those things. So I just doubled down on my business, because I'm like, I know what I offer saves lives. Like I know that it literally does. I've watched clients like literally transform after weeks or months or days of doing sessions with me. And why not continue doing that? It's helping me. It's keeping me grounded and present in my body, present in my life. I've got a kid I've got to raise. And so I just kind of like doubled down on everything. And it was like, I will not be that. And I'm not saying this from a judgment place, but I will not be that widow that walks into the room and people are like, oh, her husband just died, poor baby. And she seems really unhappy. I'm not going to be that woman. Yeah. So I just,
gosh, I mean, I'm so sorry, first of all.
Yeah, that's,
and what a shocking thing to have experienced with a 5-year-old as well. Like,
yeah, I don't recommend this for anybody. Yeah. Like, it's just like, what in the actual, are we doing here?
But so tell us, so with NeurOptimal, which is the brain training, tell us more about that and tell us how that works. Kind of give us like an overview of what that looks like for people that have no idea what it is.
Yeah. So this is the only kind of neurofeedback that does not manipulate the brain, does not put any frequency into the brain, does not tell your brain what to do. So ultimately, all of our brains and our bodies know how to heal itself. They want to avoid pain, all of us. Clearly, all three of us sitting right here, we've all had very different life experiences. We all have very different belief systems based on, our growing up and, what we were exposed to. And when we add in all of that static, our brains can get like kind of, stuck and kind of like either stuck in fight or flight or, in so much pain, you're in depression, OCD, needing the control, like whatever it is. And so this program was designed over 20 years ago by 2 clinical psychologists that decided we don't want, only the people that have like the big disorders, like the schizophrenia or the bipolar, to have access to neurofeedback. So they basically worked in the neurofeedback world for 10 plus years to design this. And it simply is you listening to music for 30 minutes. A couple of sensors are picking up your brain activity for 30 minutes and literally showing it back to the brain like a mirror, like the equivalent of a mirror. And so your brain for 30 minutes is getting an immediate feedback loop of a mirror, equivalent of a mirror, saying, this is what you're doing. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And so your brain's creating new neural pathways with that. It's defragging itself. It's like shifting patterns because it sees this is actually bringing me pain. I want to do something different. And so if the three of us were to look at the same mirror,
right,
we would all three see different things that we wanted to do. I would want to fix my hair. Lori would want to fix her shirt. Jen, you would be like, I look fabulous. And like, and then like,
You know what? That's exactly what has just happened just before we like signed on. It's crazy.
why do I
Although she
believe
was
that?
complaining about her shirt before. So
Oh
I
my
don't know.
God, hilarious. That's hilarious. Okay.
You really are intuitive.
She's very intuitive.
I really am. I got that. But like that would be the equivalent of it. And so like everybody's going to have a different experience because everybody's brain is going to be different and needing to defrag different things and shift different patterns. And so ultimately, it's bringing you back to being resilient and present in your body so that you can take in information versus having emotional reactivities to things. And when we are processing information, it's very different than being an emotion, right? Not that emotions are bad, but like we don't want to live in them and live up in them or down in them. It's like, okay, what am I learning right now? What are we taking in? And I will definitely say that I've always been pretty good under pressure and like under stressful situations, but rolling up on, my husband with my kid and like managing all of that and my dog. And it's just like, I guarantee I would have responded less graceful had I not been doing sessions on myself.
So you were already doing them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so the primary goal then is to kind of downregulate the nervous system. Is that okay? And it's obviously
Yes.
for anybody to benefit from. But are there certain people or types of situations where you see it has a greater benefit, or where it doesn't work as well? Like why would someone typically come to you and say, I want to train my brain?
I mean, I've really worked with a myriad of people. I've worked with like elderly people with Alzheimer's. I've worked with stroke patients. I've worked with people with OCD and severe anxiety. And I've worked with like 6-year-olds that, just need to do a little bit better academically or, have better focus. I've worked with creatives that, just want to like up their creativity in their game and they're feeling pretty productive, but they just want a better focus. The people that want to do it and that are really open to figuring out how to best like navigate their lives, those are the people that are really going to get the most from this. The ones that are more ambivalent or like, I don't really care, whatever. They can even experience a shift and I can experience them differently as I work with them. But unless they're really like wanting to do it, people kind of hesitate because I'm going to say this, it gets uncomfortable when you start really like coming from this healing place and you're like, oh wait, things are more calm. I don't have the drama of the, exes and the in-laws or the whatever the stress is. That can get really uncomfortable for people because then, well, what are you filling your days with? What are you filling your space with? Because if you can't blame everybody else for your things and like have all this, gossip and whatever, well, then what are you doing? So now it's a reflection. And some people don't really want to do that. I sometimes don't want to do that. And I've been doing this work for 20 plus years.
I think, can you go back? I'm sorry. I think because now we're kind of talking around the training and to actually talk about what is involved again, like what, it's like I come to you and I say, okay, I want to do this and get over like a trauma. Like I used to think, like I've spoken here before about, my mom passed away when I was a teenager and how like when you react to certain situations, you're reacting as like my 16-year-old self, not as my now 60-year-old self. And so you have to, so I would come to you and say like, I don't want to react that way anymore. So like, what are those first steps like to retrain your brain?
So for the machine specifically, I do 2 different things. I coach people that's going to be completely separate from the brain training. But for the machine itself and the brain training itself, it's literally sitting down in a very relaxing space, whether we're in your location or mine. And I put 2 sensors on your head and 3 on your ears, and I turn on music.
Yeah.
And so you're listening to really relaxing music for 30 minutes. You can sleep, we can talk, you can read a book, you can journal. You don't have to do anything specific. And so that's why it's good for kids. Like if kids come to me, we play card games or we color or, just to kind of keep them stationary because you're not really moving while you're doing this, and you listen to music. And so during the 30 minutes, your electrical activity of your brain is changing just organically. The music is kind of stimulating it a bit to do that. And so throughout the music, you'll hear skips. And the skips are the immediate response that your brain is getting to say, hey, something's changing. What do you want to do about it? But that's happening 256 times a second. So it's immediate. And so your brain is at that point like, okay, I want to do this. I want to create a new neural pathway. And so the more sessions you do, the more sustainable it becomes, and the more that your nervous system and brain are now have trained itself to like, now we can just do this on our own. I still do sessions on myself, but maybe every couple of weeks, once a month, not frequently.
So you're not actually like taking someone through, like I'm picturing it as like a guided meditation kind of thing. It's not like that. It's music, and so your brain is actually responding to those sounds that you're hearing, and it is giving a signal then to the machine to say, wow, that's so okay. Yeah. That is really.
It's very simple. It's very simple, and yet very complex because the brain is complex, but the action, the mechanism is very simple. And so that's why all three of us sitting here would have a very different response, because all three of our brains are very different. Like I have a client right now, after she does it, she's exhausted, but she's a type A that goes a million miles a minute. She doesn't stop. And after she does a session, she's like, I actually have to do this right before bed because I'm exhausted. Me, I'm like, I have to do it in the morning because if I do it too late, it'll keep me up. And I'm just so like ready to go and feeling it's almost like an edge has been taken off.
Okay. Now, is there a way to do this without the machine? Like, what are some simple steps that people, even if like, people listening, it's like, I can't, find this machine and do the machine. Like, are there things that you could do to retrain your brain?
I have people go through the intention setting exercise. What is your intention? What are your limiting beliefs that are keeping you from that intention? And then let's take those limiting beliefs and let's forgive ourselves with the judgment of them. And the statement is, I forgive myself for judging myself for believing I'm not worthy of whatever. And then moving into gratitude. I mean, so many studies have shown that like having a regular gratitude practice like is going to like create new neural pathways and like shift the brain. So like that's just an easy one. How are we grateful here? I had to flip it yesterday morning. I was having a stressful morning yesterday. And I had a moment of clarity, like, wait, this is actually exactly what I want to be doing right now. So it's like, I'm actually going to move into appreciation for the fact that I can take my kid to school this morning. And I'm so happy that I get to do that. And it literally changed the rest of my day. Like, yes, this is what I'm doing. So, but society isn't really taught that.
Yeah.
So we switched gears a little bit.
I'm sorry.
I just want you to know, Kelley, she jumped ahead of about 7 of my questions.
I did. I'm sorry.
She jumped right ahead of them. So I'm going to go to
because I'm relying on my own brain's memory from when we talked to Kelley before, and that was the part that I think that
I know that was helpful.
That was really helpful, and not everybody can
do
what's NeurOptimal, okay, and so I feel like that was really helpful to me. I think I still kind of think about that.
Yeah, I do.
And the whole like giving yourself grace is so important daily.
So then with that, so if we were to work with you, you could I guess, help people to find those blocks that we hold onto in our minds and our bodies, and what does that process look like? How would, if we came to you and said like, I don't know, I'm struggling. I don't know what my blocks are. I don't know. What would you do? What would you tell me?
Everybody Talks is sponsored in part by the Fresh Start Fitness Method.
The Fresh Start Fitness Method is a self-paced 4-step program of meditation, yoga, nutrition, and fitness where we take small steps towards renewing and sometimes rebuilding our next chapter.
If you're looking for a simple program to help support you through a big life transition and you don't know where to start, Fresh Start Fitness can help.
Just go to everybodytalkspodcast.com. If we came to you and said, like, I don't know, I'm struggling. I don't know what my blocks are. I don't know. What would you do? What would you tell me?
Well, first I would actually say most people actually do know what their blocks are. Sorry about that. Most people actually do know what their blocks are and are not willing to admit it because again, it's work to get on the other side of it. And I'm speaking from experience. This is not me being on my high horse saying like I don't have my own blocks. So most people know what they are and they don't want to do it. So we, in addition to doing the intention setting exercise, which gets people talking, I just need people talking. Because once they start like, oh, I think about this and my mom said this, and it's like, well, then I'm able to like navigate like, okay, well, clearly you're having a worthy issue. Clearly you don't trust yourself. Clearly, whatever the wording is that they're using. And once they start like doing like releasing the judgments, it's like they start to feel a weight taken off. So now after doing some sessions of that, we can look at a vision statement. What is it that you're really wanting in your life? Are you wanting to create a whole new career? Are you wanting to create a family? I had a client say, she's a younger client and she's like, I'm having all this anxiety about a job. And I'm like, what is it that you really want? She's like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I'm like, then that is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like go towards that, because if that's what you really want, but society puts all this pressure on women now because we need to be feminists and like do all the things. And it's like,
yeah,
I
totally.
You don't
think that is for everybody. So,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where you would kind of get into that forgiveness and self-judgment piece. I mean, how do you think, and I have like I have another like personal kind of question after this, but how does that get in the way? Like how does this lack of forgiving ourselves or this self-judgment get in the way of us living like our most fulfilled lives?
Wow, that was like a heavy question.
It's a good question.
From
It's a
Jenn
great
Giamo.
question. Yeah, it's a block. It's a block. So if we're holding everything in our body, every memory, whether it's traumatic or good, is in our body. So the traumatic ones are going to be clogging up the system, right? Like we won't even get into the medical things that come from that, right? And like how our body starts screaming at us to like heal the things. And when we can start realizing that we made that decision based on the best information that we had at the time. We made that decision because this is what our parents told us for 20 years. We made that decision because we wanted to. Like we just thought it was a good idea. And now we change our mind. But I think just as society as a whole doesn't really honor our intuition. It doesn't really honor the family unit. And it doesn't really honor me knowing my body and letting go of things, because guilt is a powerful motivator for a lot of people. We don't have to live in guilt. And it's not because we want to keep making those like decisions that are harmful, but like me holding on to feeling guilty about something from 5 years ago is literally hurting me. Nobody else, me. So it's a stuck pattern.
Right. And so
the worst.
It is the worst. And
Yeah,
how
it
do
really is.
you, I mean, getting unstuck, I mean, I know we talked about the brain retraining, but like what are some other steps to help people to, I guess number one, recognize and acknowledge what those blocks are, because you're saying most people know what they are, they just don't acknowledge them. But then how do you get unstuck?
I forgive myself for judging myself for feeling unstuck. I forgive myself for judging myself for making that decision that I did that I feel guilty about. I forgive myself for judging myself for feeling unworthy. I forgive myself for buying into the belief that I need to stay feeling guilty to prove that I am a good person. I forgive myself for judging myself for buying into the belief that I'm not worthy of a healthy relationship or a successful career or being a great mom. And again, it comes back to the unlearning, right? The unschooling. So if we've always been taught to give our intelligence and our knowing to the quote unquote expert, then that means that I don't know anything, and I'm not willing.
You don't have the power anymore.
And it's like, no, that's actually not true. There's people that are smarter than me, 100%. And I will listen to them. I also am going to take in the information and go, okay, this actually works for me right now, and I can take this much and not feel bad about it.
Wow. Now, and then in doing that, I'm going to call it a mantra, right? Of forgiving yourself. What if you don't believe it?
Doesn't matter. It's still working on a cellular level.
It still works. Just saying it still works, even if like you are really not forgiving yourself for all of that.
And trust me, I have plenty of clients that are like, I think this is bullshit, and I don't believe it. I'm like, great, just keep saying it and tell me how we feel in a week. Okay, well, I feel it a little bit better right now.
You better start right now, Jen.
I better start right now. Well, I mean, that's all right. So can I share something personal?
You wrote something?
I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget.
This is a surprise.
This is a surprise to her. No, I mean,
this is a surprise.
I don't know. Like, this isn't meant to be like a session for me. I'm not trying to like squeeze a free session out of you, Kelley. I just
totally
kind
fine.
of is a little
Let's
bit,
do
but
it.
that's okay. Let's go.
Kind of a little bit.
A little bit. Go.
So I had a conversation recently, very recently, and I was told that I hold a lot of self-judgment. Now, this is from like a very close friend of mine. And she
I'm trying to guess who this
said
is.
to me that I haven't forgiven myself for things that happened in my past and that I've chosen to block them out, which I agree. I'm not saying that I don't agree with these things that she said, but that I've chosen to block them out, and instead I've placed blame on other people as a result of it. It's very insightful of her. And I think at the time, I guess in hindsight, I knew that I was sweeping things under the rug, but I just kept moving on. I just kept sweeping them and ignoring them, right? And I never really realized this or acknowledged it literally until this conversation a few days ago. I mean, again, on some level, I knew it, right? Mm-hmm. But after this conversation, I was reeling. I was like, I couldn't sleep. I was crying. Like, all of these things started coming up and coming back to the surface, and I started replaying them and reliving them. And instead of forgiving myself, I kept feeling worse and worse and more guilty. Like, I just kept, like, the conversation.
Guilty for sweeping it under the rug?
Yeah, like guilty for, yes. And just like a lot of the things, like, I mean, I'm still struggling with how to handle this, and
I'm a little miffed you hadn't told me about this before this moment.
sorry. Well, I just didn't want like to cloud it with anything, and I wanted to get your reaction and obviously Kelley's feedback on this. But it's something that ever since this conversation, I've now been struggling with. And part of me was like, I was a little bit mad at her. I was like, why would you be telling me this now? Like, all these years later, why would you be telling me this? This person had listened to a podcast of ours that we did and heard me revealing some information about my past, and she was calling bullshit on it. Oh. And I understand what she's saying. I agree to an extent.
This is someone who knew you when this happened.
Yes. Somebody who knows me very, very well for a lot of years.
One of your oldest
yes.
friends.
I don't even really know what my question is other than, well, yes, I do. Like, how do I process it? How do I come to some like resolution isn't really the right word, but like I want to forgive myself for this judgment.
Can I just ask you?
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable revealing what this is, or maybe it doesn't matter?
It doesn't really matter.
I don't think it really matters.
What it
I
is.
think it's the judgment of it. It's the feeling of it.
Yeah.
So first of all, I would want to say, I hope you acknowledged yourself for taking in that information, because I'm sure that probably wasn't comfortable to hear. And thank God you have that good of a friend who can call you on that. And I think that's great that you sat in it and that you heard it and you received it.
I stewed in it, actually. I stewed.
Yeah.
But you still could have been like, peace out, girl. I don't care. Like, you could have had another reaction.
Yeah.
So now you're seeing it come up. So now you're seeing the physical manifestations of it coming up, whether you're spinning with it, you're probably having anxiety about it, etc. So then my first question would be, what is the payoff of staying in that space?
Of the anxiety of the
anxiety and keeping that past as it is versus letting it go and forgiving it and rewriting the story.
Yeah,
what is the payoff?
There is no payoff of me sitting in that negative space. But what I don't know is I don't know how to move. on from, move forward. She even was using that phrase, like move forward, not move on.
forward,
Like,
yeah.
I want you to move forward.
But I would argue that there is a payoff because you're holding on to it.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you're saying that there's something that's keeping me. Yeah, okay. Yes, I can see that. I see what you're saying now. Yeah. Yes, I think that.
It's okay.
I know, it's okay.
It's okay.
Let it out.
It's
Like,
okay.
let it out.
That's why
It's
we do this.
good.
Yeah.
Why am I always crying on the podcast? Because
So we're not talking about anything that I'm holding back.
It's
I
good
know what this is.
TV. It's good TV.
I think part of it is me not wanting to be that person. Like, I don't want to be that person. And
That person that what? I don't
think,
understand.
well, I think I've been telling myself a story that isn't really true. And because of that, I am projecting this image of myself that isn't 100% accurate. And I want to stay that person. I want to stay the person that people think I am. And
That didn't make any mistakes
Yes.
and didn't make a bad
Yes.
decision.
Yep.
And couldn't have been a bitch to somebody in a moment. Yeah. Yeah. I don't blame you. I would want to be that person
sorry,
too.
right.
But none of us are.
Poor girl.
None of us are.
That's all right.
And so the more that you can let that go, as I made the best decision that I made in the moment, or I was really angry in the moment and that's why I did it. Whatever it is, you chose to do it. And it's okay that you did it. And if there's a repair that you need to have with somebody, you can easily do that.
Now, you want to
But what if you
Or
what if you can take this story and use it as an event that shifted and catapulted you into another kind of person that you want to be?
yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Like, I feel like after that conversation, that was like, I'm able to see it, from a more authentic place. Like, and the last week of just going over things in my head, it's like, geez, I feel like I'm reliving this all over again. But I never really did, because I just kept pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down for years and years and years and years. And, and in that, I've rewritten history, and I have created this, not that anything that I have revealed about my life and my past has been untrue. It hasn't, but there's been omissions for sure.
For sure.
And so I feel bad about that. I feel like I've been beating myself up about it for a really long time, and not outwardly beating myself up or talking about it, but just in my head. And when I would start to go to that place of oh my God, I can't believe that I did that, I would quickly try to forget. No, don't, you can't think about that, because that's not you were wronged. You weren't the person who did anything wrong. And so anyway, yeah, I think I need to come to the retreat, Kelley.
Yes, come to the
She's
retreat.
deciding.
Let's work on that. Yes. And it is all okay. Because what if that was a karmic clearing? What if you had to go through that big thing so now you can turn around and know that you will never make that choice again? What if you now can honor your relationships in a whole other way because you know that you're going to come from an even bigger, more clear, authentic place? And what an opportunity right now that you get to be as specific as you can to literally move that through your body, literally. And I'm not saying do it now on, podcast, but as specific as you can. I forgive myself for judging myself for saying X, Y, and Z and doing X, Y, and Z. And the more honest you are about it, the more it can move out of your body. Because if you still kind of skirt around it, well, could have been nicer. No. Did you do X, Y, and Z and just label it? And forgive it. It's it's in the past. And again, if there's a repair to do, make the repair with that person. But
Yeah.
it does not serve you to hold on to it. It does not serve
No,
you to keep it in your body.
It's like physically uncomfortable.
Yes.
And it's, again, like something that has been suppressed for so long, because I have been saying the same story over and over, that once we had this conversation and all these things like came flooding back to me, and like things that she said that I had even like actually forgotten about. I was like, wait, no, I'm like, oh no, shit, you're right. I did do that, And so it's so uncomfortable, and it hurts so much, like physically hurts, like nauseous, horrible. But
Thank you for sharing this. And like, thank you for being willing to like put yourself out there. And you had that conversation and you literally just admitted, yes, I'm remembering these things now. Yes, I did this. Like, that's powerful for you to now start moving through it. It really, really is.
Well, I felt like this was like an opportunity, I think. I mean, for me to kind of get clarity and to get help, really, from you and all of these different modalities that you are, that you deliver, that I think are so helpful to people, that because I can't be the only person that, I mean, obviously not, you run a business doing this, I mean, not the only person that feels these things. But I think a lot of people don't acknowledge it, or don't admit it, or just sit in it, or, continue to beat themselves up. Like, I chose to just suppress it all and, beat myself up for a little bit and then pretend like it never happened. And then,
right. And that would be the payoff.
Yes.
That would be the payoff. Well, you're punishing yourself. So therefore, that makes it okay because you're handling it by a punishment. And that payoff, again, is not serving you. The payoff is usually comfort. The payoff is usually, I want to avoid as much pain as possible that you're physically feeling right now. And you don't have to live in this. You don't have to live in it. This is a temporary thing. So the more that you can get as specific and accurate as possible and do the forgiveness statements with it, and just release it. Just let it go and release it.
And how long
and
will it
and
take?
say what was your question?
How long will it take?
I don't think we have that time.
We don't have that kind of time here.
But also thank it. Thank, whether you want to physically say thank you to that person, but just thank it. Thank you for coming up and showing me that I don't want to be that person anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was, she used the term, and this is accurate too, like, stop being a victim, stop playing a victim. And
I would 100% agree with that. Yeah.
That's, I mean, maybe you should hire her, Kelley. She's very insightful. She's a very insightful friend. But no, but that really, that helps a lot. And it's like, I think I'm finally ready to like hear it and hear what you're saying, and to actually put that into practice. Again, whether I write it down or I, think about it, it's one of those things. I think it's going to probably take me a while and be really uncomfortable through it. But if you're saying that it will eventually release and I will not feel like this, then I'm up for it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even claim that it would take a while. You don't know how long it's going to take. It could be something quick. And when we really start understanding that we create, promote, and allow every single thing in our lives, right? Like, I could even take Eric's death. He had an episode a month prior. We did nothing about it. We thought he was fine. And I'm not blaming myself for his death, but it's like, if I'm going to create, promote, and allow every single thing in my life, like, I'm going to be radical with it. My finances, my business, my son, all of the things that I've done in the past. So once we like grasp that concept, that means we have the power to shift it. And the power is not outside and it's not someone else. And so there's definitely some really cool techniques that we do in the retreat that like dig in deeper into the subconscious, that like release more. We do breath work. We do freeform writing. There's just so many things that we can have as a daily practice to just move the things through, because stuff is going to come up for the rest of your life. Like, this isn't going to be the only thing. And so when we learn how to like deal with them, it just becomes easier.
And I would think other things happen that resemble in some way those things that happened to you before, even though.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think like I'm like a close friend. I think I know things, and I have been blindsided.
No, I mean,
Well,
I
let's
can't
test
wait.
this
I
you.
can't wait
Let's
to get
do it.
off this podcast to hear what the hell is going on.
if I were to talk about it, then that means it was real. And so, of course, you don't know about it. Cause
I know, but I can't believe you even did mention this conversation to me. I can't believe that you haven't.
we're going to have a fight right now, Kelly. So
We're
we'll
having
see you
a
in
fight. We're having our first fight.
But no,
Lori, thank you for sharing that with her. I'm glad that you're sharing that with her. And it sounds like she needed to go through that process and that she wants to share this with you now
yeah, maybe.
or
We'll see.
after.
Maybe.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's reel it in for a second. So I want you to tell us about your retreats. I know that there is one coming up, but tell us, how often do you run them? What do they entail, and how can people get involved?
So if you go to thekindbrain.com, you can rent a machine for me. You can sign up for private retreats. You can or private sessions and the retreat. It's called the Back to You Retreat. It's 3 days, 3 full days in Topanga, California. You fly into Los Angeles. It's very easy. You're in nature. You're in this beautiful property for 3 days. We feed you. You stay there. It's super lovely. There's only up to 7 participants, so it's very small and intimate. It's open to men and women. And we really kind of start the uncovering on Friday. Like, what is going on? What are we looking at? We're doing breath work. We're just kind of like starting to kind of put our hat in the ring. And then Saturday, it's we're now learning about a whole other aspect of ourselves. We go through human design, and like every single person has a specific blueprint to themselves. That's not my level of expertise. That's my partner, Sophie. She also does some somatic exercises that we do every morning under a beautiful oak tree. We do a lot of the forgiveness process. We do coaching. We do breath work. And then, the last night, it's really about like releasing all the things. It's like, okay, let's literally and figuratively put this all in a fire. Like, we're letting it go. Not that it can't come up again, but now you know how to deal with it if it does. Everybody gets a NeurOptimal session every day. So that's 3 sessions. There's red light therapy. There's saunas. You can go into swim in a pool. You can take naps. There's a lot of space in this retreat. So it's a very organic, lovely, we don't wake up early. We don't go to bed late. We get plenty of sleep. We're eating organic, nourishing food. And then we end Sunday, late afternoon with okay, I feel renewed. I feel rejuvenated. And now how am I taking myself back into the world? And
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, that sounds like anyone would benefit from that.
So we've done 2. We'll do another one in the spring. We do them usually like every 3 or 4 months. And they're lovely and great. And I have testimonials on the website. I share them on my Instagram. And they're 100% worth doing. And you don't feel like you need a vacation from it on Sunday when you leave.
Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, it sounds like a vacation,
sounds
but
amazing.
we will make sure to put all that in the show notes, and we'll link to your website there too. And if there's any, anything else.
Thank you so much. Thank you for doing this personal session with Jenn. We really appreciate it. A lot of times in this podcast, I'm silent, and I think this was an example of that. So, Kelly,
You need to work through your resentment of all of that.
I really do.
She needs a session on
I need a session
bitterness
just
and
on
resentment.
anger that I'm feeling.
Anger
now.
management. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks so much for spending the time with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I always
you.
love talking to you guys. You guys are so much fun, and I wish you lived in LA or
I know, we'd
was in
hang
New York a
out.
lot.
I know. Well, stay tuned, because if there's still spots, I think I'm coming.
Okay, take care.
Come. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
What'd you think?
Well, I'm distracted by the fact that of what you've revealed, whatever that is.
Okay.
But I feel like she has a lot to say.
Yeah.
And
You think I should go on the retreat?
I have mixed feelings about that. I feel like you sometimes look for things as answers, and I feel like I've always felt like the answers are within you, not elsewhere. But
Profound.
I mean, that's the way I feel. I think the retreats are great. I mean, it sounds lovely
The
and
retreat
beautiful.
sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And a beautiful space.
So, but we definitely learned a lot about forgiveness and how important forgiveness is in figuring that out.
Yeah, and judgment and all of that. But also
to give yourself grace.
The NeurOptimal sessions sound really, really cool too. And I'm so interested to because we've talked on this podcast to other, experts about just neuroplasticity and changing your brain and how your environment and all these different things can affect it, psychedelics, all those different things. This sounds like almost a natural version of that process. Oh, Ollie has something to say. But she was awesome.
She was amazing, as always. So thanks for listening. We hope you learned something too. And I'm Lori Schulweis.
And I'm Jenn Giammo.
And this was Everybody Talks. See you next time.
For more information about the podcast, to learn more about us, and to catch up on all of our episodes, go to our website at everybodytalkspodcast.com.
Follow us on Instagram at Jenn Giammo, at Shuley, or at Everybody Talks. And if you want to watch today's episode, tune into our YouTube channel at Everybody Talks Podcast.
And don't forget, if you like what you've heard, give us a 5-star rating, write a review, and tell a friend. We're for everybody and everybody.
The Everybody Talks podcast is co-created, executive produced, and hosted by us, Lori Schulweis and Jenn Giammo. Produced and edited by Eric Jackowitz.
Our theme song music is written and performed by Jackie Ryle and Aaron Navisi, with additional support from our pups, Oliver, Milo, and Murray.
Talk to you next time.